why Napoleon's empire failed. And what we have to understand is how Napoleon's conquests aroused nationalistic feelings across Europe and contributed to his downfall. Remember, nationalism is pride in your country. We're going to go over the three mistakes, and all three of these mistakes will appear on your quiz and your exam. Ultimately, how after his three mistakes, he has the downfall, and then how he's finally defeated. So, the first thing we need to go over is, we reviewed the thesis, how nationalism, and all these are flags. If you look at all these flags, these are the flags of the countries Napoleon has conquered. And we look at flags today, and they are examples of pride in your country. You hold your flag. If you're at a soccer game, you wave the flag of your country, and so on. So these all become more powerful symbols because people start to have pride in their country, and they'll fight for their country, not necessarily their king, because you were fighting for the French Republic. And that's a much more powerful motivator than just fighting for your monarch. Much like playing for your country is a more powerful motivator than playing for your coach. So his three mistakes are the continental system, the Peninsular War, and the scorched earth policy. Let's review all those. The continental system is a blockade. Napoleon could conquer every country except Great Britain. Great Britain, remember, has the greatest navy on earth after the Battle of Trafalgar, and he called this the continental system because we're going to isolate England. In reality, this blockade of all ports on Europe from British ships actually weakens the French economy because the British have a much stronger navy and they respond with a stronger blockade. And the French are unable to enforce their blockade. It also raises the price of goods and it makes trading with Great Britain very profitable. So the continental system ultimately weakens the French economy and is his first failure. His second failure is the Peninsular War. When we say Peninsular War, we're talking about the Iberian Peninsula, which includes these two countries, Spain and Portugal. Portugal begins to ignore the continental system because they're trading wine from Oporto, port wine, which is very famous in England, to England because it's so profitable. So France has to send soldiers to Portugal to make them stop. They have to go through the country of Spain. The Spanish were furious about this invasion by France because they thought the French were going to take away the Catholic Church the way the French Revolution had done under Robespierre. And Napoleon's younger brother has actually become the king of Spain. So they were already angry. And this becomes nationalism, where the people of Spain start to attack these troops. And they know they can't stand up to the French army, so they attack them in what is known as little war, or guerrilla warfare, or what we call it today, guerrilla warfare. In this guerrilla warfare, you hit and then you hide, hit and then hide. So they lose about 300,000 troops, 300,000 of his best troops, in a war that they cannot win. Finally, his big mistake is invading Russia. And as he invades Russia, the Russians use a new policy that's going to be on your exam called scorched earth policy. Russia is a huge country, as you'll see when we do the map activity. And as they retreat, the Russians will burn everything. They'll burn all the crops, all the livestock, which is the cows and the pigs, leaving nothing for the French soldiers to eat. So these soldiers start abandoning, they start deserting, looking for food. Napoleon marches into Russia with an army of about 400,000. He returns with only 10,000. So he lost 390,000 soldiers in the invasion of Russia. So the first time he falls, and Napoleon has two downfalls. The first time he falls is to the Fourth Coalition. They know that he's weak from the failed invasion of Russia. So you have Britain, Russia, Prussia. Again, remember, Prussia is the largest state in Germany. And Sweden, they attack Napoleon in this Fourth Coalition. They're going to defeat him. He thought that Austria would stay on his side because he had divorced his wife Josephine, and that he had married the King of Austria's daughter, Marie-Louise, and they had a son together. And he thought for sure Austria would stay on his side, but no, they want Napoleon out. So everybody's at war with France. Napoleon has lost a lot of his army in the Peninsular War. Napoleon has lost a lot of his army in the Russian War. So now he does not have a big enough army to stop them. He loses the Battle of Leipzig, and they cut his inexperienced army to pieces. He doesn't have the trained veterans that he did in Russia or he did in Spain. So he loses this war. And now, where is he stuck? Well, he's got to abdicate. He is defeated. Here's a portrait of him painting when he leaves his throne. And he abdicates to the island of Elba. Elba, as you saw in the map activity, was on an island in the Mediterranean about a half a day's sail away from France. And he only stays in Elba for about a year, and he escapes on March 1st. He lands on the shores of France, and thousands of French people welcomed him back because Louis XVIII, the king that they had put back in power, was so bad. As he's marching north to a town called Waterloo, he gains more and more soldiers. And when he finally gets to Waterloo, he's defeated at Waterloo by British and Prussian armies. So this 100 days, the 100 days from when he lands from Elba and marches to Waterloo, that is known as the 100 days. That is his last bid for power. Okay? He's marching north, and he gets to Waterloo at the very 100th day. And at the Battle of Waterloo, he is defeated by the Duke of Wellington. And the Duke of Wellington was not necessarily the greatest strategist, but the Duke of Wellington was inspirational. And what the Duke of Wellington did is he took the high ground and he let Napoleon's army attack him again and again and again until the Prussian forces came from the east. And this time, when they exile Napoleon, they don't send him to a little island in the Mediterranean. They send him to the worst island they can find in the South Atlantic called St. Helena. So one of the important things to know is that Napoleon's final defeat is at Waterloo. If you have any questions, please email me. Thanks.